I have long taught that the law does not respond to hope, nor is it stirred by emotion. The law is unmoved by struggle. It is not touched by fear, nor swayed by desperation. The law obeys only one voice, the voice of command. And that voice must be spoken aloud, with the authority of spiritual jurisdiction. The universe, as divine structure, awaits instruction. It is ordered, not persuaded. It is moved by decree, not by desire. Until the word is spoken, the law remains still. Until the order is issued, the substance of things hoped for remains unformed. Your spoken word is not a wish, it is a seal. It is not a performance for emotion. It is a legal transaction in the invisible realm. You must understand this clearly. Speech is structure. Every word you utter builds or breaks a form in the unseen. When you speak in fear, you build a house for fear to dwell in. When you speak in doubt, you reinforce the walls of delay. But when you speak in faith, aligned with divine law, your word becomes a foundation. I have seen it time and time again. Men and women struggling, pleading, affirming endlessly, yet receiving nothing. Not because the law refused them, but because they did not issue the command. They were begging, not decreeing. And heaven does not respond to anxiety, it responds to authority. I once counseled a woman who repeated her affirmations day and night, anxiously, hoping to speed up the result. But her words were not aligned with law, they were laced with fear. She did not speak like one who knew. She spoke like one who feared it would never come. And so it did not. I told her, speak once, and speak it like law, then hold your peace. It was not the repetition that changed things. It was the alignment. It was the structure of the decree, sealed by inner certainty. To say my supply is endless, unfailing, and immediate, once in complete obedience to spiritual law, has more power than 10,000 fearful repetitions of I need more. I have said it plainly before, and I say it again now. The law does not move until you speak. But not every word you speak is law. Only the word spoken in alignment becomes the word of power. To speak lawfully means to speak as one who has legal standing, to speak with faith, to speak once and then to release. This is not superstition. This is not performance. This is spiritual structure. There is order in the unseen, and every word that carries weight must be constructed like an edict. Brief, clean, final. Many people believe they are speaking in faith when in truth they are speaking in fear. They declare, I am rich, but their heart trembles. They say, my good comes now, but they whisper it with doubt. And the law records not the sentence but the vibration. You must remember, the subconscious is the servant of law. It hears tone more than text. It obeys the underlying belief, not the outer proclamation. This is why I say to speak with clarity, to speak with stillness. Let the word go forth not as a cry, but as a command. The divine structure is impersonal. It is like electricity. It flows where the circuit is complete. A short circuit of fear, contradiction, or self-doubt interrupts the current. The spoken word must be delivered with finality. It must be allowed to function uninterrupted. And this, too, is where many go astray. They speak and then speak again. They affirm and then contradict. They say, I receive now, and an hour later they sigh, nothing's changed. With that sigh, the first decree is cancelled. The law is not confused, but it will obey the most recent order. And the most recent order was doubt. There is a reason I have always emphasized the sacred nature of the tongue. I have called the spoken word your wand, for a wand is not waved without consequence. The words you utter do not vanish, they create records. And the subconscious keeps a perfect archive. When you speak from fear, you reintroduce a false record. When you speak from faith, you demolish it. But you must know which voice is speaking. Is it the voice of the law or the voice of your wounds? Only one has authority. The law does not interpret emotion. It does not pity, nor does it guess your intention. It does not say, they meant well. It moves only when commanded clearly, lawfully, faithfully. A woman once came to me and said, I've spoken so many affirmations, but nothing changes. I asked, did you speak them with the same reverence you would use to sign a legal document? She hesitated. No, she admitted, I was just repeating them. Therein lies the failure. To repeat a truth without anchoring it in belief is to throw seed into the wind. The command must be rooted, sealed, and then left to grow. Let me be exact. The command is not performance. It is not a chant. It is not a mantra repeated out of compulsion. It is a legal issuance. One command rightly spoken seals the case. You do not shout at the soil to make the seed grow. You plant it, water it, and trust the order. So it is with speech. Say it, seal it, release it. Do not dig up your decree every morning to see if it has taken root. That is not faith. That is fear in disguise. You must let the law do its work. When I declared, I now smash and demolish by my spoken word every untrue record in my subconscious mind, I did not say it 10 times. I said it once, like law, and I left it there. The smashing and demolishing were not my work to perform. They were the work of law. My only duty was to issue the decree and step aside. You must understand, the law works in silence. It works in invisibility. It does not always show you movement. It does not report back like a servant. It does not send updates. It obeys. That is all. But it obeys only when you speak and only when you release. Speak and hold. Declare and walk on. That is spiritual maturity. That is lawful speech. There is no virtue in panic. There is no holiness in worry. There is no creative power in doubt. When you speak with fear, you do not speak as the law. You speak as one who is outside the law, begging it to open. But when you speak in alignment, you are the law. You are not outside the door. You are issuing the key. If you truly believed your word held legal weight in the universe, would you speak as you do? Would you speak casually, fearfully, apologetically? Or would you speak once, like a verdict? Would you speak like one who knows the case is closed? I tell you now, the case is closed the moment the decree is sealed. But not by volume, not by repetition, not by performance. It is sealed by alignment. It is sealed by trust. It is sealed by the decision not to say it again. You have spoken it. The law has recorded it. And your only task now is to live as if it is done. Because it is. So many of my students ask, if the word is so powerful, why doesn't it always work? And I say to them, with clarity and without apology, because the voice you used was not the voice of law. It was the voice of fear. It may have sounded like truth. It may have used the right phrases, but underneath the utterance was the vibration of disobedience, of doubt, of internal contradiction. And I have long taught that the law does not respond to words alone. It responds to alignment. It listens not to what the mouth says, but to what the spirit believes. There is no power in speech that is driven by anxiety. There is no command in the voice that trembles. Law is not persuaded by effort. It is not impressed by emotional volume. It does not hear you better because you are in distress. It moves in response to legal structure. And the legal structure of speech requires one thing above all else: faith. Faith is not a feeling. It is not even certainty. It is obedience to structure. To speak in faith is to speak as if the law is already functioning, even when appearances scream otherwise. To speak in faith is to stand in a storm and declare the dry land beneath your feet. It is to look at an empty purse and say, my supply is unlimited. Not because you feel rich, but because law has declared supply as your spiritual birthright. And when law has spoken, you need not argue. You need only agree. Yet so many try to force the law through human desperation. They speak not to command, but to beg. They utter sentences as if casting dice in the dark, hoping one will stick. They say, I am wealthy, and then anxiously refresh their bank balance. They declare, I receive now, and then look around in fear, waiting to see if anything moved. That is not command. That is superstition. That is emotional gambling. And the law does not respond to gambling. It responds to agreement. Agreement is not passive. It is active alignment with truth. It is the state of inner silence that follows a lawful decree. When you say, this comes to me now by divine right, and then go about your day as if it is already yours, you are in agreement. But when you say the same words and then contradict them in your thoughts, your tone, your posture, you are not agreeing. You are challenging. You are injecting cross currents into the field, and the law cannot operate through contradiction. I have said before that the subconscious mind is like a faithful servant. It obeys orders without judgment, but it obeys only one master at a time. If you speak a command and then whisper doubt, it will follow the last instruction. It will take the tone, not the intention. It will build the house you mapped with vibration, not with language. You cannot deceive it. You cannot trick it with positive words wrapped in anxious energy. It listens for the foundation beneath the sentence. And if that foundation is fear, then the decree is void. This is why many people say, I tried affirmations and they didn't work. Of course they didn't, because you didn't speak them like law. You spoke them like a prisoner shaking the bars, hoping the cell might bend. But the cell is not made of steel, it is made of speech. And what you speak without authority becomes the very thing that binds you. Let me be specific. When you say I am rich, but feel guilty, you have not spoken law. When you say I am healthy but feel undeserving, you have not issued a decree, you have made a suggestion that your subconscious cannot accept. The voice of law does not suggest, it commands. It does not wonder, it does not hope, it does not ask for permission. It speaks once and assumes obedience. To speak with authority does not mean to shout. It does not mean to dramatize. It means to stand inside the architecture of truth and utter what is already settled in heaven. It means to declare what is spiritually true, regardless of what is temporarily seen. When the appearance is lack and you say, there is no truth in lack, that is authority. When the appearance is illness and you say the divine pattern of perfection is now made manifest, that is authority. Not because it makes sense to the intellect, but because it aligns with the structure of the invisible. I have taught this law in many ways, but it always returns to the same principle. You must not speak from fear. The voice of fear is not neutral. It is destructive. Every time you say, what if it doesn't happen? You are issuing a command of blockage. Every time you say it's too late, you are enforcing delay. Every sigh, every complaint, every statement of defeat, these are records written into the subconscious, and the law has no choice but to obey them. You may not realize the power of these casual utterances, but the law does not grade your words by intention, it grades them by structure. If you say, this always happens to me, in frustration, the law confirms it. If you say, nothing ever works out, even in jest, the law stamps it. The subconscious does not understand sarcasm. It understands decree, and what you say repeatedly, it engraves. If you do not want it built, do not speak it. Some say, but I didn't mean it. It does not matter, you spoke it. You gave the order. And law does not debate your emotions, it fulfills your command. If you speak something from your mouth, but contradict it with your tone, your body, your repetition of negative records, then you are not operating as one under law. You are operating as one under emotional habit. An emotional habit is not lawful authority. It is spiritual confusion. This is why I urge my students to examine not only what they say, but how they say it. Do you speak as one who is authorized? Do you speak as a citizen of the kingdom, or as a beggar outside its gate? Do you speak once with clarity and then walk on in peace? Or do you return to the same topic again and again, trying to twist the law through insistence? The law cannot be twisted. It cannot be bribed. It cannot be rushed. It only obeys order. And the only order it recognizes is spoken command, sealed in alignment, followed by spiritual stillness. So I ask you now, when you last spoke your truth, was it a decree or a plea? When you issued your affirmation, was it rooted in faith or laced with fear? When you said, I receive now, did you feel yourself letting go? Or did you immediately start wondering when and how it would arrive? These questions are not meant to shame you. They are meant to awaken you. Because the moment you recognize the tone of your speech, you begin to reclaim your throne. The moment you realize that every whisper of fear is also a whisper of law, you begin to guard your tongue. And the moment you start speaking like one who has authority, you will see the law rise to meet your word. The voice of fear is not the law. It may be loud, it may be persuasive, it may feel familiar, but it does not build. It does not create. It only delays. And every moment you delay your true decree, you delay your divine provision. So let the voice of fear fall silent, and let the voice of law be heard, once and for all. There is a moment in every spiritual demonstration where man must step back and allow the law to act. This moment, though invisible to the eye, is the most sacred part of the process. It is the point at which command ends and trust begins. I have seen many fail, not because they spoke wrongly, but because they refused to release the word once it was spoken. They hovered over their decree like anxious gardeners digging up a seed to check whether it had taken root. But no seed grows under constant suspicion. The spoken word, once aligned and declared, must be let go. This act of release is not passive. It is not giving up. It is not retreat. It is, in fact, the most powerful gesture of authority. To let go after you have spoken is to say to the universe, I trust the law more than I trust appearances. I trust the unseen more than I fear the delay. I have delivered the command. Now I watch, not with desperation, but with certainty. Not with restlessness, but with reverence. In your word is your wand, I wrote. I now cast this burden upon the Christ within, and I go free. I did not say I cast it and then check back in 30 minutes. I said I cast it and I go. That going is not physical, it is spiritual. It is the release of mental control, the relinquishment of human striving, the refusal to micromanage God. I often meet souls who affirm with great diligence, but never release. They repeat the same words day after day, not in devotion, but in fear. They believe that more effort will ensure the outcome. But the law is not a machine that requires fuel. It is a force that responds to structure, and once the structure has been given, your work is done. To speak repeatedly from fear is not devotion. It is doubt in disguise. Consider the story I often tell of the man who came to me declaring lack, yet could not stop confessing it with his words. I told him, you must stop repeating the facts and begin stating the truth. He replied, but I must be honest. I said, no, you must be lawful. To keep speaking of what you see is to remain imprisoned by it. To speak once of what is spiritually true and then hold your peace is to declare your freedom from it. Let me be clear. Releasing the command does not mean you stop believing. It means you believe so deeply that you no longer need to repeat yourself. When Moses stood before the Red Sea, he did not shout commands again and again. He lifted the rod, and the waters parted. His posture was the decree. His silence was the trust. His stillness after the act was his surrender to law. So too must you speak, and then be still. Not the stillness of paralysis, but the stillness of agreement. When you speak rightly, you have built a structure in the invisible. If you keep adding to it, tampering with it, adjusting it out of worry, you will weaken it. Just as a house built and rebuilt every morning can never be inhabited, a decree spoken and respoken out of nervous energy never manifests. The power is not in repetition. The power is in lawful finality. There is a rhythm to divine law. Speak, seal, release. This is the holy pattern of creation. Speak it with conviction, seal it with inner stillness, release it with dignity. This is not spiritual negligence. It is spiritual maturity. A child repeats itself for reassurance. A sovereign speaks once and moves on. If you have issued the command and feel drawn to speak again, ask yourself, am I reinforcing or retracting? Am I anchoring truth or trying to rescue my faith from my own unbelief? The answer will reveal whether you're acting from alignment or from fear. I have counseled women who declared a decree over their affairs in the morning and then undid it by mid-afternoon through their conversations. They would say, I know God is my supply, and by evening tell a friend, but I just don't see how anything can change. And I would say, the law obeys the last voice. What you say second does not build upon the first, it replaces it. When you contradict your own command, you do not delay the manifestation, you cancel it. There is a passage I hold dear. Hold fast the pattern of sound words. This is not merely poetic, it is instruction. Hold fast means, do not amend it, do not apologize for it, do not soften it when others question it, do not dilute it when appearances challenge it. A sound word is one spoken with the tone of certainty and left alone. Many are afraid to let go of the command because they fear it will not hold. But your word is not suspended in the air, it is anchored in law. It does not vanish when you release it, it begins to work. And like a seed planted deep, its earliest signs of life are invisible. This is why I say, do not look with your eyes for confirmation. The law operates first in the unseen, and only later in the material. To demand immediate evidence is to pull up the seed. Let the process be. You have spoken. Now let it grow. The spiritual error of the age is this, believing that persistence of effort replaces purity of command. It does not. You cannot compensate for misalignment with repetition. You cannot bribe the law with noise. Speak once with lawful tone and step aside. That is your sacred part. All else is interference. I once said, Infinite Spirit, open the way for my great abundance. I am an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to me by divine right. I did not say it 5 times a day. I said it once in full alignment and went about my day with praise. The path opened. The channel revealed itself. not because I labored to make it so, but because I issued the command and let it go. Now you may ask, what do I do while I wait? And I will tell you plainly, you do not wait, you walk. You do not pause to worry, you proceed in praise, you act as if it is done, because it is. The command was issued, the word was released, the law has received its structure. Your job now is to live in congruence with the result. The man who speaks and then acts in contradiction is divided. But the one who speaks and then lives in harmony with his decree is whole. And wholeness is the vibration that welcomes completion. Therefore, after you have spoken, adjust your inner climate to match the world you have declared. Speak like it's done. Walk like it's done. Give thanks as if you have already received. Not because it convinces the law, but because it confirms your obedience to it. Let it be known, there is no need to repeat a lawful word. Once issued, it reverberates through the ethers, draws substance into form, aligns unseen forces. Your repetition does not increase its power, it questions it. Your silence after speaking is not abandonment, it is sacred cooperation. So I say again, when the command is given, let it go, let it work, let it live, and above all, let it complete what it was sent to do. It will not return void. There is a danger I must now name clearly. The danger of spiritual repetition without authority. The danger of uttering the same sentence again and again, not because it is law, but because you secretly fear it has not yet been heard. This is not the practice of power. This is the practice of panic, disguised as devotion. To speak a truth from doubt is to dress unbelief in sacred words. And though the form may appear lawful, the vibration is not. I have witnessed this error in many students. They recite affirmations like rosary beads, hoping that frequency will make up for lack of faith. They repeat phrases endlessly, believing that volume or constancy will move the law. But I must tell you what the law has already shown me. The moment you repeat a command from uncertainty, you have revoked it. The spoken word is a deed, and a deed, once contradicted, becomes null. It is not the number of repetitions that creates reality. It is the unwavering structure of the first decree, sealed in confidence and left untouched. To repeat from fear is to inject confusion into the matrix of law. It is to scramble the frequency and call forth no form. I have said it before, the law is precise. It is not sentimental. It does not decode your feelings. It does not weigh your sincerity. It processes structure. If your structure is built on fear, the law will respond to fear. If your words carry anxiety, the law must obey that anxiety, not the sentence you intended. A woman once told me she had declared, "God is my instant and everlasting supply," but she had said it 100 times a day. Still, she had received nothing. I asked her gently, "Why so many times?" She looked at me and said, "Because I'm afraid it won't come." And there the truth was laid bare. She was not issuing law. She was rehearsing unbelief. And repetition, in this case, did not amplify her command. It canceled it. You must remember, the subconscious is literal. It does not sort your statements by priority. It does not say, "This was said with more passion, so I shall honor it more." No, it receives what is most frequent, most emotionally charged, most recent. If your latest sentence contradicts your earlier command, the latter overrides the former. The law is faithful, but it is faithful to alignment, not to effort. To declare all that is mine by divine right now comes to me, and then to lament, "I just don't see how it will happen," is to sign a contract and then immediately tear it up. The law does not uphold torn covenants. It enforces only what is intact. And repetition from fear is an act of self-sabotage masquerading as spiritual diligence. The faithful decree is brief, it is clean, it is spoken once and walked away from with confidence. I do not mean that you may never repeat a truth, but I mean that you must never repeat it from fear. If the impulse to speak again rises from doubt, be silent. If it rises from praise, speak it as celebration, not negotiation. The difference is great. There is a sacred law of closure. When you speak as one who commands, you do not revisit the decree. You do not adjust it. You do not apologize for it. You do not lower it to make it more acceptable to your senses. You speak, and the word becomes law unto the field. To speak again from doubt is to suggest that the law did not hear you the first time. But the law hears perfectly. The law misses nothing. The only question is whether you have aligned with its structure or contradicted it in the very next breath. I have said it in my writing, and I say it again now. Infinite Spirit, open the way for my right supply. That is a complete command. It is not a question. It is not a cry. It is a legal release. When I say those words, I do not revisit them a moment later and say, "But what if it does not come?" That would be to revoke my authority. That would be to reintroduce disorder into the field I just aligned. And the law cannot fulfill a decree that is constantly rewritten. The human mind is addicted to control. It wants to measure, compare, anticipate. But the spiritual mind, the mind that knows the law, understands that faith is the stillness that follows the command. The most powerful act after speaking is silence. Not a silence of defeat, but a silence of mastery. The silence that follows a royal decree. The silence that assumes obedience. The silence that says, "It is done." If you have been speaking the same affirmation for weeks, months, even years, and see no fruit, ask yourself, have I spoken it once and stood firm? Or have I undone it each day with anxious repetition? The law is not failing you. The law is not slow. The law is exact. If your harvest has not come, trace the trail of your own words. You may find that what you built in the morning, you dismantled by nightfall. This is why I urge you to speak with weight, speak with finality. Choose your words as if they are contracts, because they are. Choose them as if the universe is listening, because it is. Choose them as if the invisible has ears and records, because it does. The law is not a metaphor. It is a structure. It receives orders. And once it receives yours, it begins immediately to construct what you have issued. But if the orders change each day, the structure falls. A building cannot rise if the blueprint changes constantly. A prayer cannot manifest if the command is revoked. A field cannot grow if the seed is dug up in fear. I do not say this to rebuke you. I say it to release you. Release you from the false burden of repetition. Release you from the belief that effort substitutes for alignment. Release you from the habit of canceling your good with your own voice. You have the right to speak once. You have the right to stand by your decree. You have the right to trust the law without needing to see evidence at every turn. This is the higher discipline. This is the deeper power. This is the practice of lawful speech. So the next time you feel the urge to speak your command again, pause. Ask yourself, am I reinforcing or am I retracting? Am I praising or am I pleading? Am I standing or am I scrambling? And if your answer reveals doubt, choose silence. For silence in faith is greater than speech in fear. The law remembers your last decree. Make it one of strength. Make it one of sovereignty. Make it one you never need to take back. Speak it once and let it stand. I must now correct one of the most dangerous assumptions in spiritual practice, the belief that suffering moves the law. It does not. The law is not a responder to pain. It is not touched by your desperation, no matter how sincere. It is not softened by pleading, nor is it provoked by weeping. The law, being divine principle, is not emotional. It is not partial. It does not pity. It operates on alignment, not volume, on structure, not strain. Many souls come to me exhausted. They have prayed, they have cried, they have shouted their affirmations into the sky, hoping that their passion would provoke response. But the law does not move for drama, it moves for decree. And a decree is not made in torment, it is made in clarity. I have watched people speak from exhaustion, from lack, from grief, and though their words were sincere, the law did not respond. Not because it was cruel, but because it cannot obey confusion. Let me be plain. The law does not respond to emotion. It responds to jurisdiction. You may shout, "Help me," until your voice breaks, but if the vibration is panic, the answer cannot come. For what is sent in panic is not a lawful request. It is a scattered frequency. It has no structure. And the law cannot build what is not ordered. This is why I urge you not to mistake emotional release for spiritual command. They are not the same. You may cry until you are emptied. You may wail until you are breathless. But if you do not speak as one who knows the law, you have not issued anything the law can uphold. Suffering does not substitute for speech. Emotion does not override misalignment. The universe is not sentimental, it is exact. And this is not to harm you, this is to protect you. For if the law could be moved by chaos, the world would be unstable. But because it responds only to order, it is faithful. And once you align, it obeys without hesitation. I have seen this again and again. A woman cried out, "Why hasn't it happened? I've begged. I've done everything. And I asked her, have you commanded? She paused. I've asked. I said, that is not command. To command is to say, this is now so by divine right, and then to stand. To command is to state truth, not as a wish, but as a verdict. To command is to speak and walk on, not to hover, hoping to be heard louder the next time. Your tone matters more than your words. You may speak the right sentence with the wrong spirit, and the law will not move. You may utter a perfect phrase, but if it is laced with dread, the decree is void. The law measures not the poetry, it measures the power. And power is not loud, it is legal. Power is not frantic, it is sovereign. This is why I insist, do not speak from need, speak from knowing. Do not utter words to get something. Speak to confirm what already belongs to you by divine inheritance. The law is not manipulated by lack. It does not reward those who suffer the most. It responds to those who align the clearest. And this, I tell you in love, is the great unlearning for many who come from spiritual systems that glorify struggle. But divine law does not require you to suffer to receive. It requires you to align to receive. The difference is everything. You must understand the dignity of the law. It is not moved by begging. It is not like man who may be worn down by repeated requests. It does not fatigue. It does not soften under pressure. It only responds to accuracy. That is why I say, speak once, speak rightly, and then do not speak again out of fear. There is no virtue in sounding holy while doubting within. There is no power in repeating phrases without authority. And there is no need to dramatize what the law already knows. It is not deaf, it is not distant, it is not asleep, it waits for structure. That is all. If you speak from fear, the law must obey the fear. If you speak from lack, the law must build around that lack. But if you speak from truth, even quietly, even briefly, it will move instantly. The appearance may take time to shift, but the structure in the unseen will begin to form the moment your command is issued in alignment. This is why I urge you not to try to convince the law. You do not need to make a case. You do not need to justify your request. You do not need to list your suffering. The law does not need your explanation. It needs your word. And your word must be final. The only time the law delays is when you delay your authority. The only time the manifestation is postponed is when the command is unclear. But once the decree is spoken in truth and sealed by inner stillness, the outcome is inevitable. So speak from dominion, not from desperation. Speak with spiritual composure, not human noise. Speak as one who understands the character of the law, that it is unfailing, that it is just, and that it is waiting, not to see how loud you cry, but to hear how well you stand. There is no magic in trying harder. There is no reward in appearing more spiritual. The work is simple and therefore profound. Speak, align, release, then walk as if it is done, because it is. When I teach that your word is your wand, I do not speak in metaphor. I speak in law. Your word, when spoken in alignment with divine principle, becomes an act of legislation in the invisible. It is not a hopeful affirmation. It is not poetic encouragement. It is legal command. It carries weight. It binds the structure of unseen substance to manifest accordingly. And as with any lawful act, once issued, it does not require your emotion. It requires your authority. A spiritual command is no different from a legal decree in the earthly realm. It does not beg. It does not explain. It does not repeat. It declares and then proceeds. In your word is your wand, I gave sentence after sentence, each beginning with, I now command, and concluding with, under grace and in perfect ways. These were not phrases to chant for comfort. They were instructions, clean, final, and sovereign. When I said, I now command the money that is mine by divine right to reach me under grace in perfect ways, I did not question if it would come. I did not check the post or calculate sources. I let the law receive it. I had issued the command. The work was no longer mine. Commanding is not an act of willpower. It is not force. It is not volume. It is not shouting into the void hoping to be heard. It is alignment. Commanding is speaking from the place of lawful identity. It is the soul standing within spiritual jurisdiction and saying, this is mine by right. I do not chase it. I do not earn it. I do not force it. I call it. And once called, the law obeys. To command means to assign, not request. You are not asking the universe to please send what belongs to you. You are not negotiating with unseen forces. You are not applying for approval. You are naming what is yours and sealing its path to you. You are declaring the structure through which the invisible must now move. You are speaking as the law, not to the law. And when the command is made, it must be left untouched. You do not reopen a signed decree. You do not tamper with a sealed writ. You do not re-argue a case the court of spirit has already closed. To do so is to undermine your own authority. To do so is to act as if the law requires rehearsal. But the law is not uncertain. It is not deaf. It does not forget. The only instability comes from the one who issued the word but did not release it. I have said it plainly. The moment you speak from alignment, the transaction is complete. The law begins at once to fulfill what you have spoken. Whether you feel it or not, whether you see results immediately or not, the command has gone forth. And just like a seed planted in rich soil, it does not ask to be watched, it asks to be trusted. I once advised a student to speak a decree just once. She was astonished. "Only once?" she said. "Surely I must affirm it again tomorrow." I told her, if you have spoken it in fear, no amount of repetition will redeem it. And if you have spoken it in faith, you need not say it again. Repetition is not reinforcement, it is often contradiction in disguise. The subconscious does not need repetition. It needs clarity, it needs conviction, it needs finality. I teach you now what few are willing to accept, that the spiritual realm honors sovereignty, not striving. That heaven is moved by structure, not struggle. That your command is not heard more clearly when you say it louder. It is heard more clearly when you say it like law. This is why I have never advocated for frantic affirmations. I have never suggested you fill the day with declarations. I have always taught that a single command, spoken rightly, carries the full weight of divine order. Do you see what this means? You have no need to wear yourself out with effort. You need only to enter the courtroom of spirit, declare what is yours, and leave the chamber in confidence. You need not revisit the claim. You need not check on it hourly. You need not justify yourself to the law. You are not an outsider pleading for entry. You are not a servant hoping for permission. You are an heir executing your spiritual inheritance. So let me show you how to speak like that. Let your command be clean. I now command all delays to be dissolved and my divine right path to unfold under grace and in perfect ways. Then stop. Say no more. Do not explain it. Do not soften it. Do not tamper with it. Do not recite it from fear an hour later. Leave it. The word has been sealed. The order has been sent. If fear arises, do not repeat the command. Respond with praise. Respond with stillness. Respond with the act of embodiment. But do not question what you have already decreed. The law does not respond to doubt. It obeys the last word spoken with authority. Make sure that word is not revoked by your need for comfort. You may be tempted to revisit your command when appearances seem unchanged. Do not be fooled. Appearances are the last to shift. The structure in the unseen has already begun the rearrangement. What looks still is only the old form dissolving. Do not interfere. Your work is already done. This is what I mean when I say, command and let go. It is not lazy, it is not blind, it is the highest form of spiritual obedience. It is trust in the one law that never forgets, never fails, and never resists what is spoken rightly. You are not walking away from your word, you are walking ahead of it, knowing it will meet you in perfect timing, in perfect form. So speak once, speak lawfully, then walk as if it is done. Because once you've commanded and released, it is. Many ask me, what shall I do after I've spoken the word? How do I wait without falling into fear again? And I tell them, you do not wait, you prepare. You do not watch the door, you walk through it. You do not stand still, you align your conduct with the world you've already commanded. Waiting is the posture of the doubtful. Preparation is the walk of the lawful. After you've spoken a decree in alignment with the law, your task is no longer to make it happen. Your task is to behave as if it has already been done. You must now become the keeper of the vibration that matches what you have ordered. For if your word is structure, then your tone is atmosphere, and the atmosphere must match the house being built. I have told my students again and again, do not plant the seed of wealth and water it with the emotion of lack. Do not command divine compensation and then answer your phone with dread. Do not declare that the right door is opening and then live as if every hallway is a trap. Your behavior after the command is evidence of your faith. The law does not require perfect emotion. but it does respond to congruence. What do I mean by congruence? I mean that your thoughts, your actions, your habits, your mood, each becomes a witness to the spoken word. If your decree is, all that is mine by divine right now comes to me, then you must no longer speak of delay, of shortage, of not enough. You must no longer tolerate conversations that contradict the atmosphere of completion. You must walk through your day as one who already possesses the unseen. This is not pretending. This is obedience to the law. Some find this difficult. They say, but nothing has changed yet. And I say, you are looking in the wrong direction. You are watching the field when the form is still underground. You are listening for proof when the law is asking you to become proof. You do not wait for the blessing. You move in rhythm with the decree that has already summoned it. I have often said, act as if you have already received. This is not play acting. This is spiritual discipline. If you have declared my perfect health is now made manifest, then walk with the posture of wellness. Speak with the tone of vitality. Dress in expectation. Decide in favor of your word. You are not faking. You are aligning. You are reinforcing what has already been spoken in heaven. There is no need to inform others of your decree. The law does not require witnesses. It requires obedience. Silence after command is not neglect. It is power. Those who run to explain themselves often dissipate their energy. I have seen men and women break their own alignment by discussing it too soon, defending it too loudly, or seeking validation too anxiously. But the one who knows walks quietly. There is no need to prove, only to live. When you speak rightly, the law moves. When you live rightly, the law manifests. Do not separate your mouth from your mood. Do not separate your decree from your demeanor. The law hears both. If you have declared, my supply comes now, but your shoulders slump in defeat and your words drip with self-pity, you have reopened the case. You have introduced contradiction into the record. So what must you do? Speak the word once. Release it in trust. Then maintain the inner tone of completed faith. Praise silently. Keep order in your environment. Hold your atmosphere with reverence. Do not pollute it with idle complaint, with nervous chatter, or with the old songs of limitation. The law is still listening, and while it does not need your help to deliver what you have ordered, it does require that you not interfere. I have said this before, and it must be said again. Your conduct is your confirmation. Your daily tone is your signature on the spiritual document. Speak once and then sign it with action. Your gestures, your tone, your habits, these are the seals of your authority. The law takes its cues from your vibration, not your drama. So if you would see your word become form, you must live as if it already has. This is why I teach inner stillness, not outer striving. The soul that is still after speech is the soul that knows. The one who speaks once and rests within the command has already crossed the threshold. She does not wait, she prepares. She does not question, she builds. She does not check back, she clears the way. If you have spoken the word rightly, you no longer need to prove it. You need only to match it. If your word declared expansion, do not contract. If your word declared release, do not cling. If your word declared increase, do not shrink back in false modesty. Every hour after the command is your agreement in motion. Let your movement confirm your word. Let your tone match the promise. Let your countenance reflect the decree. For the law, once issued, will never return void, unless you void it with your own contradiction. But if you stand, if you walk, if you embody the atmosphere of what you've already spoken, then the unseen must become seen. The invisible must take form. The command must be fulfilled. This is the law. It has no margin of error. It has no preference, no resistance, no delay, unless introduced by you. So I say at the close of this teaching, speak once in alignment, release completely in trust, and live daily in agreement. This is not the passive life. It is the life of divine dominion. This is not doing nothing. It is doing only what is aligned. This is not waiting. It is walking forward in full legal expectation. Let every thought be a witness. Let every gesture be agreement. Let every silence be filled with reverence. For once the command has gone forth, the work is already underway. And the law will complete what your lawful word has begun. It always does.